All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Voice of Canada Broadcast Network. Let me see. We have the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and throughout the province of Ontario, the northern part of the states of New York and Pennsylvania, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ, based right here in St. Catharines, just down the street from our studios. And they stream us on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour, Exonation, is Marty Rosenblatt, and we're going to be talking about consciousness, precognition, and retrocausality, right, Marty?
Correct.
Okay. First of all, Marty, thanks very much for joining us, and I was wondering if you could let our listeners know a little bit about yourself.
I'm trained as a physicist from UCLA with a master's degree. I've always been interested in consciousness, psychic phenomena. Mm-hmm. When I was young, I used to hear all these fantastic stories that were sort of unbelievable at the time, but they were capturing to me. I read Isaac Asimov, Stranger in a Strange Land, so I was reading books like that. And then after I graduated with my master's, I was on a PhD program, but I got a job at a company that was using these advanced computers at the time. Now my cell phone is as advanced as what was going on back there in 1960. But they were doing computational physics. And so I got involved as a physicist in predicting high-impact work for NASA, where they were worried about impacts on their vehicles and also nuclear weapon effects.
Right.
And then I got into, actually a little before I retired, I started a company called Applied Precognition Project, and I've been doing this work ever since, involving consciousness, remote viewing, and associative remote viewing, which involves that retrocausality.
Now, you mentioned an organization that you started. Tell us about it.
It was p-i-a.com, Physics Intuition Applications. I was always, as I said, interested in this sort of thing, so I actually started an organization which was focused on consciousness and precognition. This happened after I went to a place called the Monroe Institute. Some of your listeners may have heard about that.
Definitely,
Bob Monroe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, out of body work. And I met Skip Atwater there and others, and, still becoming 100% convinced it was real. Mm-hmm. I knew I had to do things, but I had to do it as a physicist where things can be measured. And that's where the leap from remote viewing which, gives you these good targets and you can match them, but how well do you match them? Where associative remote viewing, and let's just talk binary, we've done more than binary, up to 20, but in binary, you have two choices. So right now we're focused on sports, and we're doing the over-under in NBA sports right now. And so that's very nearly binary. The bookmakers are really very good at it. So that's a 50-50 proposition. And the way that works there are two photos, one associated with over, one associated with under. The remote viewers are asked to describe what they will see after the outcome, after the game. And then as a judge, you look at their transcript, and then it gets compared to the two possibilities, and if there's a good match, you can make a prediction.
I bet you the bookkeepers just love you guys.
Well, we haven't made a big enough splash yet, but we actually hope to, because one of my objectives is to get over this thing where most people still don't believe it. Most scientists do not believe it. So I've got a project going now where for the last 3 months, we've got a hit rate of 65%. And that's actually using an approach which we got from Dr. Ed May, which, I don't know, I'm sort of going fast. I don't know if people know this, but when the judging was done by a person, like when I used to do the judging for 20 years, we would get so many good hits, and then we'd get misses, and we would never understand why. And Ed May really proved that it was something called displacement. There are two possible pictures. The viewer sees one, but the judge used to see both. And, in this crazy, what we call non-locality, where you can see the future, you can read people's minds subconsciously, viewers were getting a very good description of the wrong picture. Now, that would lead to a miss. That's called displacement. And it was very upsetting to so many people, unbelievable. Ed May then came up with an approach where the judge is now a computer. So no human being sees both photos. And then the viewer only sees the correct one. And that is working much better. We no longer get these long streaks. And we've had this 3-month 65% hit rate going, and we intend to continue it. In fact, I've laid out what I've called my impossible dream to do this for 1,000. So we're going to do 1,000 predictions. It'll take a few years, and we expect to keep up our 65% for that period of time. And then the odds against chance of that will be phenomenal, and it will not be able to be denied.
Marty, how would you describe consciousness?
We say the phrase, and it is so true, consciousness is fundamental. So any description of it lacks things because you bring in non-fundamental things. Yet every sentient being, every human being, every animal, every extraterrestrial, any sentient being knows consciousness because they experience it in the now. This now moment, right? You just heard me clapping.
Yes, I did.
You heard it in your now moment. And that's consciousness. So you know it, you experience it, and you can try to define it, but it's just what I said. It's awareness. It's the very awareness of this conscious moment.
So where does precognition fit into this picture? And how does precognition work? Because if you have if something that you are receiving hasn't happened yet. How does that work?
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Isn't
It
that
truly is.
wonderful? It's you would not think that that's possible based on the way most of us learn and are taught, not learn, because a lot of people have precognition when they're young and it gets turned off. But we are taught that the world is linear, that there's a cause and that leads to effect. Well, the real world has sometimes the future can communicate with the past. That's retro causality. In other words, when I ask a remote viewer to describe and sketch what he's going to see in the future, and he gives me a transcript, or she gives me a transcript, and then in the future, when that transcript is matched with the actual target and there's a good match, they really are retro-causing that match to go back to the time when they did their remote viewing session.
All right.
Now,
Okay.
we know it works. And how it works, I don't know how to tell you how it works. The universe is put together so that precognition, retrocausality, and most of the other psychic phenomena, PK, psychokinesis, mental telepathy, the universe permits all those.
The universe permits all those, and there are those who believe that all those happen at the same time, simultaneously.
That's a very good model, Rob. We call that outside of space and time. Some people refer to those as other dimensions, but yes, the image of when you get in a deep meditative state, and I call it the spiritual state. This stuff ultimately, and it seems like most of us have been in it for a while, we may not use the same words, but ultimately you get the feeling that this is spiritual, because there's something going on which is so much greater than our day-to-day ego intellectual selves, which are wonderful, nothing wrong with that, but there's something even deeper than that, something higher than that, and that's the spiritual. And when you can set aside your intellect, your ego, and set an intention, say to get information from the future,
right?
You'll get information from the future. Intention seems to be the key element. You need, I believe, to eventually get down to this deep place, and then with intention, you're operating outside of space and time.
Marty, stand by. You and I have to take our first break. And X Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Marty Rosenblatt. His website is appliedprecog.com. That's APPLIEDPRECOG.com. And Marty and I will be back on the other side of this very short break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ here in St. Catharines, streaming us at classic1220.ca. And welcome back. Marty Rosenblatt is our special guest this hour, Exxon Nation. And Marty's focus at APP is to attract more people and groups to work with APP and act as group manager for several APP groups. He is both an associate remote viewer, that's ARVER, and analyst judge applying the 1ARV protocol. Marty is an authority on all things related to precognition. Marty is also president of Physics International Applications, which he founded in 1998 to apply remote viewing to predicting stock market and sporting event outcomes. He writes the online magazine Connections Through Time. Marty teaches financial and sports precognition application workshops with other experienced experts from the remote viewing community, including Russell Targ, Skip Atwater, Stephen Schwartz, and Paul Elder. Marty has an MS in physics from UCLA, and individuals that are drawn to non-conventional applications such as remote viewing, dowsing, and precognition are just the right people to assist their society in moving through the consciousness paradigm shift. Once again, if you'd like more information about Marty and the work that they do, visit www.appliedprecog.com. And it's funny, I was reading the people that you work with, Marty, and I've had Russell Targ on the show a couple of times, Skip Atwater on the show, Stephen Schwartz on the show, and of course Paul Elder. I find remote viewing and the areas that you investigate and dwell in very interesting.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add one more thing to your asking how it works.
Okay, please.
We do not know in detail, but the closest we can come is quantum mechanics, because quantum mechanics has this feature called non-locality, where we know if you set a photon out in one direction, set another one out in the other direction, and they're entangled, you tweak one and the other one knows it instantly. That's non-locality. So that's different than when we're taught about cause and effect. So quantum mechanics has, I think, the basis of a lot of what we're doing. There's also called the zero-point energy field, which is a quantum mechanical type field that is not questioned by science. We all agree, even the ones that won't agree in psychic phenomena and precognition, that there's this thing called the zero-point energy field that we're all embedded in. And that's the thing which is maybe outside of space and time, includes past, present, and future. And in my opinion, the energy that's coming into that and going out to that is connected to the spiritual reality.
So are we talking about the mechanism behind psychic phenomenon?
Yes. I mean, yes.
Excellent.
I believe all of it is connected to things like the zero-point energy field and the non-physical reality, which I sometimes call spirituality.
What is a retrocausality?
See, retrocausality, normal cause and effect. You do something now,
right,
and information in waves, say, goes forward in time. Retrocausality is when you do something in what you would, in linear time, think of as the future, and waves go backward in time, and information is picked up earlier than when you actually did your retrocausality event.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is getting into mainstream. There have been several physics conferences on retrocausality. That is the title of the conference. So we're trying to understand this, and the very small group of physicists that are investigating this are doing it. They keep doing experiments that confirm it. But I got well past that many, many, many years ago and said, let's not try to keep understanding it. We know it's real. Let's apply it.
All right. Once we understand and we can prove that it is real, what applications can we use it for?
Well, I mean, okay, funny you should ask, because I'm just getting, besides the wagering and all of that sort of thing, it can obviously be used for that. And that's going to make a major change to financial institutions when it becomes very well established. But I have one that I'm just getting involved in, and which I think can be very, very important to society, and that is predicting earthquakes. Now, Stephen Schwartz, who you interviewed, you probably remember one of his claims, appropriate claims to fame, is that he's able to predict the location of lost civilizations. He found the city of Alexandria that was buried and lost. He's got a whole book on it. He's found other things. And he does this with, I'm going to call it map dowsing, but it's a little, he gets the really best viewers. And on a map, they will indicate where do they think, let's say, the city of Alexandria, the lost city of Alexandria, is. And they'll make a point on the map. Now imagine if you have 10 of them, and their points are all sort of clustered. This clustering is what he found, that the good psychics seem to want to go to a similar place. And then once he got that area, he would have them again do it. And he got very specific. And by golly, he went down there and found it. And he's done that with other things. So that's clustering on a map. Now, for an earthquake, if I tell you there's going to be an earthquake, in San Francisco, who cares if I can't give you the date, the day as well? And I've talked to Stephen, and he thinks it's a good idea. He's more than willing to do it. He needs money, though, to fund his good remote viewers and himself. So he tells me he wants $50,000. And I am trying now to actually get that. The Fund Me program is not around, but there's another one who I just made contact with. God, hold on. Let me get the name.
Certainly.
Because
Exonation.
if I get this set up there, I'd love people to go to it,
Sure.
Give us money. $50,000 is a lot.
It certainly is. Now, what will you be getting for $50,000?
Okay, Kickstarter is the name of it.
Right.
What we'd be getting for it is he would bring in a group of probably 5 to 10 really good remote viewers, like the ones he used to find the buried city of Alexandria and other things, and get them to do 2 map dowsing sorts of things. The first would be a map dowsing of the location. The second would be, I don't know what you would call it, a timeline dowsing of when that earthquake of, say, greater than magnitude 6 is going to occur.
Yeah, I've had a lady on the show before. Her name is Charlotte King. I don't know if you've heard about her. But she is dead on when it comes to the predictions of earthquakes.
I'd love to get in touch with her.
I will send you the information.
Please do that.
I certainly will, sir.
And, I'd love her to make a prediction going along with Stephen Schwartz. Why does she do this often enough that she has credibility? Is she 100% accurate?
I don't know what the percentage is that over the years that she's done it, but I know the 3 that she gave me over the years were dead on.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you shared that with your viewers who could then leave. The whole point about this is if it gets credibility, then people will leave before the quake, and it could save lives.
Exactly, especially since President Trump is defunding a lot of the different agencies that used to work on, these kind of things, including FEMA and NOAA, and the list goes on and on. So I guess an independent now is very valuable.
That's right. And I'd love maybe to bring her into a group I'm trying to put together. I'll have another person that makes predictions, and we'll see how accurate. They make the prediction, but it's always from months away, and I don't know if this person is accurate. I will tell you, he channels information. I don't know how she gets her information. Do you know, does she channel it from somebody?
I have to be totally honest with you, Marty.
Okay.
I can't remember because over the years I've done over 5,000 interviews.
You can't remember them all.
No, just imagine that, eh? No, but I do remember there are those guests that hit things dead on that you remember. And I do remember, in fact, she's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. My producer just told me. So I will certainly let you give you the contact information, Marty, because I truly believe, Marty, that we all have the piece to the mysteries of life jigsaw puzzle in our pockets. And all we need to do is get to the big table. Everybody takes out their little jigsaw puzzle piece, and they work together and they come up with the finished product. And I think that this is what we need to do, especially in today's age where there's so much disinformation out there. There's so much there's so many charlatans out there that hardcore research like you are doing, and I know that Skip and Paul Elder do, is legitimate. So anything to help you, work with you on this, you've got my full support.
Well, that's wonderful. And I will be setting this up. And in fact, maybe when I get it all set up and there's a place people could go to donate, I've never asked for money for any of my work. But this earthquake, and Stephen Schwartz is the only one that's done this map dowsing with 100% accuracy. I mean, 100% accuracy is tough.
All right, we have to take our break here. I'm sorry I got so involved in our conversation that my producer just threw a piece of orange peel at me to get my attention. That's why the glass is between the two of us. We'll be back on the other side of this break as Marty Rosenblatt and I continue talking here in the X Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, classic1220.ca.
Reason is not what you care for.
Welcome back, everyone. Marty Rosenblatt is our special guest. His website is appliedprecog.com. That's appliedprecog.com. Marty, it seems that Precognition and the work that you're doing with the folks that you know, like Skip Atwater and Paul Elder and, of course, Russell Targ, the information that you're able to come back with, do you have a fear that it would be weaponized?
Well, yes. Weaponized in the sense that who we consider enemies might use it to spy on us. We know that happened already. The remote viewers spied on the Russians and the Chinese, I'm sure they were spying on us. So in that sense, it'll be used. But I'm also a very positive person. Somehow I'm hoping as we open this reality up to more and more people, they will recognize the spiritual aspect of it. And again, based on what we see in the world now, it's hard to believe, but that's the hope, that if we can get more and more people to really be tuned in to the fact that we are ultimately spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience to learn, in many ways, I think, about the spiritual. And so hopefully as we learn more and more about this consciousness and precognition, retrochorality, PK, mental telepathy. Mental telepathy is another big one. It's a psychic skill. And I'm hoping as these get more and more accepted, first by science. Scientists do not accept it, but imagine that scientists accept it, and then we can really start getting at doing more analysis and experiments on it.
All right, once you run the scientific analysis and science comes up and says, yep, we're dead on. There's the proof. They do their studies. They call you up. Then what do you do with this information, Marty?
Well, earthquake predictions,
okay,
I think it's a very important one. And there are other catastrophes. We're now getting very good at knowing where the hurricanes are hitting because we can follow that. But how about tornadoes? Those tornadoes still seem to be very random. And I would say, because I believe we are the good guys,
yep.
How about finding the guy who's going to do the next terrorist attack? Wouldn't that be a valuable thing to do?
It would be, but here's a question. By interfering with free will, by taking this person out of the system, are you not changing the future?
You absolutely are.
Okay.
But be careful about that. You're not changing it. You're making it. You are creating the future with the terrorists being knocked out, the way you put it. You've created that. There was no future that actually happened, at least in this universe. They have this multi-universe theory. I'm still struggling with it. But in the one universe where that terrorist might have caused a major terrorist attack and killed lots and lots of people, you took him out and you helped create the actual future. So you changed, I guess, one potential future into a better future, and you created that. And you can see lots of ways precognition can do that. But this is making judgments. Again, other people are going to consider them, unfortunately, to be the good guys. But I think the United States, I hope we're the ones who, in fact, develop this and apply it for good things like stopping terrorists, notifying people about earthquakes, tornadoes. There's another one that's actually being done now, as far as I know. Some good remote viewers have been asked the question of industrial organizations, what is my next best product to develop? Think about that. So they're saying, what would be the product for me to develop that will be a financial success a year from now?
But let me look at the other side of the coin on this one, Marty. What happens to the remote viewer that is brought on board by a competitor, and the remote viewer then remote views and gathers trade secrets using his ability?
You bring up the very, very important issue of ethics. And again, as remote viewers get into this and get the sense of the spiritual, I hope they will become more and more ethical and refuse to do that, no matter how much money they're offered. And guess what?
What's that?
Some won't. And that's an issue. I can't deny that that's an issue.
So how do we put safeguards in place to ensure to the best of our abilities that this will not happen? That the ability and the great work that are being done by scientists like yourself and Skip and Paul do not get into the wrong hands once the total concept turns from an idea into a reality?
Well, I think we have to think about that as we're developing this. It's a lot like AI. People are very worried about what's going to happen with this artificial intelligence, and some people are thinking about how to safeguard it. But, I think that's all you can do. In this field, nobody is thinking about how to safeguard it,
Right.
because it's not far enough along. But as it does get far enough along, I do think that's going to be important. We'll need groups of people who focus on ethics and maybe use remote viewing to find instances where non-ethical things are being done. But who gets to define ethical? So it's...
Yeah, there's a lot to consider.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Marty,
that is the world moving into, though.
I understand that. It's the world is getting more and more complicated, as we're told by those who want to call themselves gurus, that technology is making it easier for us. Huh.
Yeah.
Bull crap.
Well, but you can't stop it.
That's right. You can't.
Back over history, and that's sort of sad, because people have not changed. We're all shitty. Not all, but there's a bunch of shitty people around all the time that want to start wars,
Yes.
take over other people's countries. That's been the same as far back as there's been any recorded history. The only thing that's changed is technology has gotten better and better and better. And that's going to continue.
You were talking about how people are unethical. A lot of people are. We just seeing what happened over the past week with the falling of the stock market, and the different, the bonds, the dollar, and so on the financial side. Anyone that has truly developed the ability to use precognition in a way that I hope you and your group do finally get it to the point where it's like pushing a button and there it is. They will use it, in my opinion, for nefarious reasons.
Well, you have to define that. If making a lot of money is nefarious, then what you said is nefarious.
Yeah.
I think making money is not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, if person A has the ability to use remote viewing and person B doesn't, how do we protect B, who does not have the ability to do remote viewing, from playing on unequal ground?
They're not. It's a little bit like AI.
Yeah.
Some of the AI programs apparently are the best predictors of the stock market. I don't know if any of them predicted this, 2,000 point drop, and now it's rising. But there have always been some people that have been better at some stuff than other stuff, and we have to live with that. Period. I think that's reality. We do have to face up to reality.
I agree with you 100%, but when it comes to using an ability that is not accessible across the board. I don't think that is fair. You know, if A, B, C, D, E, F, G all have the ability to use remote viewing in order to see the stock market and make money, that's one thing. But if you've got only one person with the ability and you've got the B, C, D, E, F, G who are going to suffer financially because of the upper hand of A, I don't think that's fair.
Well, right. I understand what you're saying. Now, notice everybody has the ability to learn remote viewing. I'll tell you something else. I'm not sure anybody can be 100% as you're talking about.
Right.
You know, we're doing 65%, and I love that in a way because people that are, and the only people who get access to our predictions are people who submit transcripts. So,
Gotcha.
So they're the only ones who get to see the group prediction. And the 65% is an interesting number. You know, it's not like the sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting precognition in an appropriate place where usually when people first hear about it, they talk about it as if it ought to be 100%. If you can do it, why can't you do it all the time?
But 65% is a very impressive number as well. And you and I have to take our final break. So please stand by, Marty. Exonation, a very interesting conversation with our guest this hour, Marty Rosenblatt. And his website is www.precog. No, wait a minute. Hold on. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Oh, it's right here, Rob. AppliedPrecog.com. www.appliedprecog.com. And we'll be back on the other side as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. So don't go away. Wow, what a great band that was. April Wine and Just Between You and Me. And this is the X Zone. You're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ here in St. Catharines, and streaming on classic1220.ca. And you're also listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and a couple of new ones, including Canada First Broadcast Network and Voice of Canada Broadcast Network. Now, before we get back to our guest, I'd just like to remind everyone listening that if you would like to listen to any of the shows that we have produced here at Relmar McConnell Media Company, and you would like to listen to them in the past archives that we have, there's one place to go. It's 100% free. We don't charge. 100% free. All you need to do is go to www.xzbn.net. That's www.xzbn.net. All the shows are there, including A Different Perspective with Kevin Randall, Paranormal Stakeout with Larry Lawson, Mission Evolution with Gulda Wieka, and of course, yours truly, Rob McConnell and the X Zone. So once again, that's www.xzbn.net. My guest this hour is Marty Rosenblatt, and his website is appliedprecog.com. First of all, Marty, thanks very much for joining us. And you were telling us just before we went to the break that remote viewing is not very hard to learn.
That's correct. The hardest part is allowing your doubts to go away and realizing you can do it. People have blocks that go back many, many, many years, and working through those blocks is what actually gets you more and more spiritual. I use that word a lot because I think it's fundamental to this, but everybody can learn to do it now. Not everybody is going to be good as, say, Joe McMonaco, the superstars. So I think if you worked hard enough at it, maybe you could be. How do you really know? Most people do a little, they get a few successes, and then they stop. But yeah, it's accessible to everybody. There are plenty of classes out there. We give classes, we give workshops. We have 2 webinar workshops a year with interesting people. We have people like Dean Radin. Stephen Schwartz is going to be on our next workshop, which is May 16th to 18th. So, if people go to our website, they can get all the information. But there are plenty of people out there who are willing to teach you remote viewing.
Well, you said that the hardest part is basically, getting rid of the doubts. And is this where meditation would come in?
You're obviously leading me. And the answer is yes. Meditation is the key to this. One of the few common elements with people who do well with remote viewing versus the others that are more sporadic is meditation. And that's because in meditation you can set aside the ego intellectual part of you and just allow information to come in from the deeper parts of you that get in touch with what I call the subconscious, right below the consciousness, and then that gets passed on to your conscious mind. And meditation and meditators know how to do that. And in many ways, when you do your remote viewing, the first stage is to get into a meditative state. Not everybody believes that. Some people have these long strategies, but I think those strategies are getting you deeper and deeper into a type of meditation state.
Where do you see the best use for remote viewing in the future?
Well, I am now working on earthquakes. In addition to, I do think, predicting markets in a way which is public. See, that's sort of the difference. You were sort of talking about a person who would somehow do it in private and make a lot of personal money. If they want to do that, people have their own free will.
True.
I think that's right on the verge of maybe being unethical because it's only for money, but I don't see anything necessarily wrong with that. But like what I'm doing is I'm doing it publicly. Every month in one of my webinars, I give my statistics. And I hope more and more people do that, and in financial markets, because that's going to get society's attention. Just like earthquakes will get society's attention if we can demonstrate that we can predict them, the location and the day, reliably.
How close do you think we are at getting to that point with remote viewing?
Well, in terms of being able to get 65%, I think we're there. 3 months, my odds against chance now, last time I looked, were like 300 to 1, but I've done more since then. So the odds against chance of what I'm doing is probably up near 1,000 to 1. Is that going to convince people? Well, in many ways it should if they're open-minded. And I'm hoping that'll bring more people into this world of consciousness and remote viewing, but begin to realize that the real universe is non-local. It allows for precognition. It allows for retrocausality. So the data is out there. I think the earthquake one will hit a lot of people closer to home. And so I think that'll bring people. And other people are doing stuff too, which is out there in public. So we are slowly heading in that direction. But it's pretty slow. But hopefully it'll accelerate.
I would imagine that after 9/11, that there were a number of agencies as well as private individuals who were using remote viewing to try and find bin Laden. Have you had any dealings with the alphabet soup agencies trying to recruit members of your organization or yourself to help them with projects?
I came close to some people who were talking to those agencies, and we did some work with them. And I know that has to be going on. You know, sometimes my government is very stupid, but I don't think there's that stupid. You know, they have the evidence from all the years that they were doing this under the various programs like Stargate, which everybody's heard about. But there are a lot of programs, very successful. The three-letter agencies used these programs, and then it was cut off. And apparently, I'm going to oversimplify it, but I think it was cut off by people who thought it was the work of the devil. You know, you can't do this. Wow. It's impossible, and anybody can. It might be the work of the devil. And some Congress people, some senators actually said that. And so the program was cut off. But I think some of the agencies, the dark agencies, are probably subcontracting out to good remote viewers. I do not know that. Okay. I do not know that. But so many countries were involved in this. I mean, China, Russia was clearly involved in this. We had lots of meetings. Ed May went and talked to counterparts over there. Joe McConnell went with him to talk with remote viewers. China was clearly doing it. Israel was doing it. So it's hard to believe that it's not being used now someplace. I hope we're using it.
I hope we're using it for the right reasons.
Yes.
Marty, when it comes to learning remote viewing or someone who is well seasoned as a remote viewer, does age or sex matter as far as the capabilities or the ability to become a more proficient remote viewer than, let's say, a male to female or female to male? Or is it right across the board?
It's right across the board, except for those that are open and do meditation. In fact, if you like, there's been a controversy on teaching. Can you really teach it? Does that help? Versus the very simple approach I'm about to give you now. And I believe this very simple approach is really all you need. Okay?
Okay.
And including Russell Targ. Russell Targ was one who was on this side of the argument. Get quiet. Quiet down. Open up your mind.
Right.
Be open to receiving information from your subconscious. Have the intention to see what has been designated as your target. Look for information, surprises, whatever you get, put on your transcript. Period.
That's it.
That's it. You get quiet, you get open to get information from your deep self, and you put it on your transcript.
We've got about a minute left before you and I have to say so long for tonight, Marty. But the question that I'm going to ask is a little long, but I hope you can give me an answer. With all the technology that's out there now in the airwaves, you have 5G, you have microwave, you have digital transmissions, you have Wi-Fi. I said that, Bluetooth. Does this interfere with the ability of someone to to find their target easier?
I don't think so. You're
No.
going deep down into yourself, and one of the things you do is you set aside all that crap.
Gotcha.
That would be one of the things you might do. Let me just add one other thing to your list, which I think is the most important in this area.
We've got 15 seconds, Marty.
Quantum computers. I think there's a slight chance that quantum computers, remember you're getting down now to the quantum world,
Yep.
might learn how to do precognition.
Interesting. Marty Rosenblatt, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone, Marty, but I will get you the information of Charlotte King, and we'll also check to see if we've had any other remote viewers on. I'll also share that information with you.
Thank you very much.
Take care of yourself, Marty. And that's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. So from everyone here at Ralph McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, and of course our good friends at your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ, to one and all, have a safe evening, and remember, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.